Hello everyone. I would like to just talk a little bit about the definitions for minor arcs and major arcs, and then talk about the measure of each of those. So we're going to kind of combine that together. So I have a circle here, circle P, and I have some points on the outside. So I just want to talk a little bit about the definitions. So the first one, a minor arc, is a piece of the circle. And the way that we're going to distinguish minor arc is it has to be an arc that is less than 180 degrees. So that means if the entire circle is 360, half the circle is 180. So that means that the minor arc is a piece of the circle that's smaller than half, right? Smaller than half the circle. And we name these with just two letters. So we take the 2 points that are on the circle that are the endpoints of our arc. We put a little arc symbol over the top, and that's how we name them. So for example, in my circle here, less than half, so I could take a look at this arc. So this piece of the circle from R to S. That would be a minor arc. And then the way that we can name that, arc RS. So I got the two endpoints that make up the arc. I put a little arc over the top to indicate that I am talking about an arc. And there we go. Now on the other hand, a major arc, this is kind of the other side of the spectrum. A major arc is something that's more than 180 degrees. So if a minor arc is less than 180, we have the related major arc that would make up the rest of the circle. And these are named with 3 letters. So just like the minor arc, we need where it starts and where it stops, but we are going to include an additional letter, which is a point somewhere in the middle of the major arc. So for example, up here we looked at the minor arc, RS. Now I want to take a look at the rest of the circle. So we already have this piece named, so then the rest of the circle is going the other direction. So it starts at R and it ends at S, but now to indicate that I am talking about a major arc, I'm going to include the point T. And the order of the letters is important here because they're telling me sort of my path that I want to follow going around the circle. So I want to go from R, and I don't want to go directly to S, so instead I'm going to go from R to T and then to S. And that gives me my major arc. And then just one little side note here, we also do have a semicircle, which is half of a circle. So this is exactly 180 degrees. And we also name this with 3 letters, if possible. Sometimes you just draw in a diameter, so you only have 2 letters or 2 points on your circle. But most of the time we want to do 3 letters. So in this case, if I want to name a semicircle, I could say from R to S to T. R, S, T. Okay, so just a little bit about what each of those are, a little bit about the notation. Now when we want to talk about how big these are, all we need to do, just like we do with angles, is we put a little m out in front. So let's do an example. Find the measure. So the measure of arc RS. So the little m out front now indicates that we're talking about a measure. whereas up here we were talking about the actual arc. So here we're looking at a number. And then the way that we define this, the arc measure is the same as the measure of the central angle that is intercepted by the arc. So if I'm looking at arc RS, that arc is going between the angle from RPS. So angle P in the middle, this is our central angle. It has a measure of 110 degrees, which means that RS, the arc, has that same measure. So this is also 110. Okay, the next one we looked at was RTS, so then the measure of arc RTS. So now this was the rest of the circle. So this was the major arc going from R to T to S. The entire circle is 360. Take away the minor arc of 110. So that means our major arc has a measure of 250. So that would be like looking at the angle that goes from this side, rotated all the way around to here. So that central angle. And then our last one, so the measure of arc RST. And we talked about this. This is a semicircle, but the other way that we can take a look at it, RST, because RT is a diameter, it's a segment that goes through the center. Anytime you have a diameter as kind of your two endpoints, it's going to be a semicircle. So this has a measure of 180 degrees. So hopefully that explanation clears some things up with the notation and then how we define the measure of each of these arcs.